I also now understand, like, why all of these 17th century women had other people do this for them. Because this is, like, impossible. Hello and welcome back. We are really just jumping into this project today. Last week I released part 1 of 2 of this Ren Faire saga, and in this part I am creating the costumes for both myself and my daughter. My daughter's costume doesn't really have a whole lot of elements to it. She wanted to be a mushroom, and so here you will see me creating the cap for said mushroom by reusing a dress that I could no longer hope to fit into and upcycling a hat that was used for a Dia de los Muertos inspired Halloween costume. The deconstruction of this dress was fairly simple. It was just a few snips, and eventually I had it into about 3 separate parts, and I found that using the largest part would be enough to cover the entirety of the hat. Next, I snipped up some fabric that I actually thrifted that I thought was sort of perfect because of the lines and striations on it that imitated the gills on the underside of a mushroom. Then, using my trusty hot glue gun, I went ahead and affixed that to the brim and stopped when I had roughly 11 third-degree burns and something that closely resembled a beekeeper's hat. So now I'm just taking my thread and I'm hand sewing the inner edge of this fabric in hopes of creating a ruched effect to get it to look as similar to those mushroom gills as I possibly can. In case you were wondering, my seamstress skills are pretty limited. However, I'm decent at hand sewing and usually do so without injury. On an unrelated note, did you know Tide sticks can get blood out of most fabrics? After hot gluing a few cardboard strips to the hat to give it a little bit of structure, it was finally time to lay the fabric over the whole thing. I fiddled with this for a lot longer than I'd like to admit. I really didn't want any seams on the mushroom cap. However, I did end up having to have this giant butt crack down the middle, and after pinning that around the edges, I ended up with a sort of high pony situation on top of the mushroom cap that I plan to trim off later. I sewed all the way up the side around all of the edging, and then I had myself a good old David Bowie dance break. Anywho, that night I got started on creating the wand for my friend Stephanie, who was kind enough to make a capelet for me. So here I'm just carving up a nice little stick I found in the road. You're welcome, Stephanie. Alright, it's day 2 of making outfit pieces for the Ren Faire. So far, I have completed the mushroom hat, which surprisingly turned out better than I had hoped for. My daughter ended up opting out of the spots and lace, so we just have this sort of velvety maroon cap here. I just did a layer of paint and Mod Podge on the wand, so I'm currently waiting for that to dry so that I can add the last bit of embellishments. So the last things that I have to make now are for my own costume. I am going as a sort of woodland elf with autumnal seasoning? I don't know. So I'm going to use this leather, or probably fake leather, it does not feel real, this vegan leather or pleather folio pouch that I found at the thrift for like $1. I think there's enough here for me to work with, and what I want to do is this is very ambitious. I want to create my own pattern and make a sort of underbust corset that looks like tree bark. And then I'm going to add, somehow, I have no idea how, some embossing to give it that sort of bark-like texture, and then possibly add a few little accoutrements like some autumn foliage, some moss, and maybe a few other things. Just depends what I have time for. I also bought this really cheap grommet kit. Let's say a little prayer that it works for the lacing of the corset belt type thing that I'm making. I might I might make some sort of head piece for myself, and various other little kind of knick-knack things to attach to my costume. Again, I don't know, this is already very ambitious, so we'll just see where I end up. And where I ended up was in front of the mirror talking to myself because I thought my mic was on and it wasn't. Anyways, after I took a little bit of measurements that were very non-specific, I laid out some paper to get started on my corset pattern. The general idea here was that I would deconstruct this folio case and then sort of see how it measured up against the paper, trace out my pattern, and then cut all of that out. This is the front panel, which should hopefully cover most of the front of my very short torso. And then here is the back panel. And they don't quite go around the entirety of my waist. However, I am hoping to have, some ribbon or string or whatever here to give the obvious corset effect. And I'll be able to cinch it, however is necessary. So now that I have these, I'm going to trace them out on top of my fake leather and then hopefully put the grommets in and see if this is going to work. Front and back panels are done. I think they look great. I'm not quite sure if it's going to work exactly how I want because it does have a tendency to sort of bunch a little, especially in the back because of the panel being so large, and it not really having enough space to conform to my body. So I might have to split these up into more panels, but I'm really hoping not to because I really don't want 100 different laces to tie up. But yeah, I'm about to try and add the grommets. Okay, so full discretion, I have never ever worn a corset before. So I way overshot one side and way undershot the other, but it worked. It worked. I have them semi-attached and I think it's gonna work. So now we get to do the fun part, which is decorating this to look like tree bark. In order to get the kind of bark-like texture, I'm gonna try to do something that I'm not entirely sure is going to work, but I'm going to put hot glue here and then sort of position the leather over this and then lightly iron, and I'm hoping that the heat will sort of create a reverse embossing effect. I don't know, but here goes nothing. The thing that I, rather stupidly, if I do say so myself, did not account for is the fact that, glue melts when you heat it up. So yeah, this didn't really work how I wanted it to. But I found that if I got a piece of kitchen twine and did the same thing, I did in fact get the result I was looking for. Later that night, I got to start in on the fun parts, which were kind of distressing everything, adding some moss, and just in general making this thing look a little bit more like a tree. making quite a bit of progress that night, and all the little things that you see on it here are not actually attached, they're just laid out so that I can get an idea of where I want them. And then I got to start in on making some little mushrooms to attach. Here I am finally getting around to finishing that wand that I started earlier in the video. I was overcomplicating things by a massive amount, and I redid this probably 3 or 4 times. Eventually I ended up simplifying, adding a few little decorative leaves, some jute twine, and a couple little crystals, and I think it ended up looking rather nice. My motivation behind all of these little details that I'm working on now is just to basically do everything in my power to give people no question as to what I am, which is an autumnal woodland elf. Will they come to that conclusion? I don't know. However, I had a lot of fun making these little mushrooms and even sculpting some little horns that I wanted to look like tree branches. It's time to assume the position. Ambiance. My finger's stuck. Oh! No, 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 no. My finger's super stuck to this mushroom. Ow! Yeah. Ow! Now the question is, did I become part of the mushroom or did the mushroom become part of me? It's time to get horny. 'Cause I'm painting horns. What did you think I meant? Later that night, I handled a few small matters like making the pouch I was going to carry my money in a little bit cuter and shading the elf ears that I was going to wear with eyeshadow because for some reason, the ones for tan people like me are more expensive. Tell me how that's fair. My previously mentioned friend Stephanie was nice enough to get me this cute little set of apothecary looking bottles, and I just filled them with some of the random beads and things that I've been holding on to. Tomorrow is the big day, and I'm crazy excited and also crazy nervous. For no other reason than it is simply my duty to exist and be anxious. I thought that I would go ahead and do a few last minute touches on camera with you guys, and then hopefully do like a little makeup test and final try on just to make sure everything looks okay together and just to get a feel for how it's going to be tomorrow. Really the only 2 or 3 actual costume things I have to finish up are making a little holster. Well, I made a holster for this bottle. However, I used hot glue and it's already fallen apart. So I'm gonna stop being lazy and stop rushing. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my tapestry needle and some embroidery floss, and I'm going to stitch it instead just to give it a little bit more integrity. And same thing on this skirt hike that I made. I think this part is fine. Well, no. If I could have had another week, I feel like they all would have looked much better and maybe been a little less sloppy, but I have been absolutely mad dashing to the end of this. Yeah, I'm going to sew both of those things and then finish up working on my headband. I think that's it. Okay, I've got my floss and my tapestry needles. I think I'm gonna go with a brown just because I want it to blend in as much as possible. That looks pretty close. So here is the belt that I thrifted. I really like it. It has like these really cool floral and leaf designs on it. So basically this will just slide onto it like this. So I need to make it approximately, I don't want it sliding around a bunch, so I'm gonna try to make it like fairly tight, but not so tight that I can't get it on or off. I know this looks absolutely just janky from the back because initially I didn't think I was going to be using these scraps, and so I like sliced all the way down the middle of them and it looks kind of bad. This is a hasty costume, I suppose. Not done with the utmost patience or craftsmanship, but it's done with a lot of heart. I'm about to sew on this little, I don't know what this is called, but I plucked it off of a pair of suspenders. So I'm going to now sew that on here. Okay, skirt hike is complete. Now it's time to move on to the little holster for my, basically I just made a little neck here for it, and I'm going to sew it around the neck and then attach it to this strap. I want to do something kind of simple. I'm thinking like some golds, bronze, copper, just kind of like autumn leaf colors to sort of match the vibes that I have going on with my outfit. Okay, and then I have like this super glittery powder that I'm going to kind of just like blend here into the outside. When I was in grade school, there was a girl who got like craft glitter in her eye and had to like go to the eye doctor and have it like surgically removed from her eye or something. Okay, maybe surgically isn't the right word, but she had to have glitter removed from her eye like that very day because it was like shredding her cornea or something. I don't know. I'm probably being dramatic. That was third grade me interpreting that, so. Either way, ever since that happened, I have been terrified of getting glitter in my eye. And yet here I am, heaping on gobs of it. And I think that's it. Let's go get the clothes on. All right, folks, that is a wrap on making my first ever Renaissance Fair costume. Hopefully by now you've seen me frolicking around the grounds, and I hope that you enjoyed this video chronicling the creation of this woodland elf outfit. There were a few hiccups and some things that didn't turn out quite how I imagined they would, but all in all, I had a great time and I'm really glad that I was able to do this. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!
Mama, are you the one named Stick Romans?
Yes.
I knew it.
Jesus Christ. My needle. My scissors. Ayo, what in the Hans Christian Andersen? Let's explore. Is there such a thing as ethical spider web harvesting?